Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friday night's after show on Narrative TV. It's so good to be with you tonight. Gregor Liar is here and Lincoln's Bible is here. I'm going to start by saying hi to LB. What a great week you've had. A big week. I'd have more celebrations going on, but I didn't prepare enough. But I'll do some of that and some of that and some of that and all that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So tell everyone what's going on. You had some big news. I don't know how to stop
did.
this stuff. There you go.
I did.
Tell everybody. This is exciting.
It's exciting. I can't say, it's one of those crazy things where I can't say too much yet, but because we did sort of get officially launched in front of advertisers and syndicators and everything, I have a new show. I'm not calling it a podcast, even though it is audio. I'm going to try to bring you guys back to the years of radio and that oral storytelling tradition with this show. And it's great. We set up 5 seasons and it's scripted and it's kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's called Under.
It was a lot of work.
Tell me the name again.
The World Beneath.
And I get that. Underworld. I get that whole thing. That's pretty smart. You
must
be a writer.
I must be a writer.
It's so beautifully written, the first 2 minutes that you've let us listen to. And I would play it to people, only I can't right now. But maybe by the end of the show, we'll be able to play a couple of minutes to everybody. But it's so lovely. It's just written, in the second you say the first words, you just dive into this world. And you can tell how rich a tapestry it's going to be and how an incredible story it's going to be. And I mean, we all know little bits and pieces of it, but you know, it's the way you're writing and telling it that sounds like it's going to be amazing. And can't wait to listen to it. It's going to be the perfect accompaniment to every summer vacation this summer. So everyone should go and subscribe now to The World Beneath.
The World Beneath. You can go to Apple or Spotify or these places and just hit subscribe, and then when it drops, it'll drop for you. We are dropping it. So it's sort of a big bomb of depending on where you are and how you're getting it and what you're subscribed to. And we'll do more information as we go, but it's a big dump. I should say that in the positive sense, not in a negative sense.
It sounds like you're teasing something and it sounds exciting, but we'll wait.
It's exciting. You are going to be able to just sort of go on your road trip. I hope everyone gets to road trip this summer or travel, see your family. We're all vaccinated now. It's an incredible time to have this summer upon us. And I hope to be there with you telling stories all along the way.
And we're mostly looking at what the mob world and intelligence, right? That's sort of the intersection. Mobsters and spies.
In the promo, we set it up as it's the intersection of intelligence operation and organized crime. So I say it that way because it's not, the short version is mobsters and spies, which is fun and everyone gets that. But you'll sort of see where it's all going. And it's 100 years of history. It's 100 years of history.
Amazing. So. Can't wait to listen to that. And we're all very excited to have you do that. I was actually listening to your podcast today, Greg, all day. It's also addictive listening to. So I was just so interested in your guest today, and I can't remember his name, but Magnitsky's lawyer, I think is his official title.
My guest today was Jameson Firestone, who was the principal of Firestone Duncan, which was the boutique law firm in Russia from basically from the fall of the Soviet Union on, and specialized in helping foreign businesses negotiate and navigate through Russian tax codes and stuff. So Sergei Magnitsky was head of tax for Jameson Firestone.
At his firm, wow.
And one of the clients that he had was Hermitage Capital, which is Bill Browder. So he's at the center of all of this stuff that happened. He not only that, he was the target of a smear campaign by this Russian lawyer lady. I don't know, maybe you've heard of her, Natalia Veselnitskaya.
My favorite Russian name to say online. I just studied it so many times just to get it right, but it's great.
Veselnitskaya, whatever. And he also knows Alexei Navalny. So there's some common ground. So it really is, and it's mostly him talking and me just being like, oh my God, so it's a fascinating,
It's really riveting.
thing to listen to if you haven't done so.
You don't know people who know these people intimately and don't know them so well, and he really knows them. I mean, he's really had time with Browder and in the trenches, and knows exactly why Browder did what he did. And there's lots of disinformation around Browder, so it's great to have someone clarify all of that and from a first-hand
and
perspective.
disinformation around Navalny and all of it. And he's also, Jamison Firestone also is a key lobbyist for the Magnitsky Act and was instrumental in getting that passed in the United States with Browder. So, great
story.
Great guest. I again, I don't think it's tooting my horn because it's just him talking and I just hit the record button, but it's definitely worth listening to. Now, if I may, just for 1 second, I want to go back to LB's podcast here without revealing anything, because I'm not going to reveal anything. First of all, one of the reasons why podcasts have trailers, I now know, is because there's so many different, like, unlike my Substack where I just hit send and then it goes out and then there it is and it's one link and you just link to it. Podcasts exist across like multiple platforms and they populate at different times. So sometimes in the morning I'll be like, okay, the Apple one is up. Where the fuck is the Spotify one? It's supposed to be up. It's not up yet.
I've had that experience a couple of times.
I don't know what. It's like magic, I guess. I don't know. It's like rubbing the sticks together to get the fire. I'm not sure what it is, but they do you put the trailer in there because it populates, it initially paves the roads that need to be paved on all these platforms. So then when the actual episodes drop, you're already subscribed, right? So
it's very important. It certainly gets subscription ups. That's good to know.
That's point A.
Do you have a trailer? Do you have a trailer for yours?
I did like a while ago, yeah. I don't think I boosted it that much. It's pretty funny. The trailer's pretty funny. It's mostly like
it's really funny, yeah.
And anyway, so it's important that you can subscribe and all this on multiple platforms if you want. That's totally fine. And I will say this: LB and I often talk on the phone in the morning, as maybe you're aware. So one morning she's like, "Oh, do you want me to read you episode 1?" And I'm walking and I'm like, "Oh my God, really?" I'm thinking to myself, what if this is just, not great here because I want to be polite. So anyway, I'm like, yeah, great. Read the episode. And it's so good. Okay. It was so good.
So excited.
And I
don't even ask what it's about.
And this thing is going to be fucking amazing. That's it.
Cannot wait.
Whether it's a serialized thing is what it is. It's not really, it's a history thing, but it's serialized. It's not like our show, my show, and your show are more like newsy, and we talk to people. This is not that. It's a different animal altogether.
Takes you all the way back.
It's really wonderful. So
awesome.
I can't say enough. I personally, I'm super excited about it. So
that is good news.
I hate most things. I say that.
So
there's a lot of stories around it too. So it'll be fun to tell. I'll come on narrative. We'll give you guys, because you're such a loyal audience, we'll give you a little bit, and I'll tell some stories too, because as I've been writing and I have great producing partners and producing it and putting it all together and actors, and it's a whole thing, right? And scores and this whole thing. There have been all these hiccups along the way, and they're all about me not really getting anything right and doing it's like, oh, we're going to save democracy if we could just figure out how to hit record, right? Like, so there's funny stories like that, I think, throughout the process that we can give too. That'll be fun for the audience. And the silent one speaks so that everybody knows.
That's exciting.
And you will learn my name. It's all
LB, isn't it? I thought your name was LB.
It is LB.
No, there's actually there's a reveal. There's a name reveal where Geraldo Rivera is going to come on and open the vaults.
Okay.
And the only thing in the vault is going to be the name. And then there's going to be explosions.
I think we've got to do a special.
Can we
do the special? We can carry it live here.
Party.
We can't have a reveal party without explosions.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
And when you're ready to reveal your name, let me know. We'll do a big thing about it. We are here today also to, mention your podcasts again. So you've got...
Thank you, guys. Thank you. So it's The World Beneath. It will be 5 seasons. Every season will dive into a different theme. I can tell you what season's 1 theme is. It's treasure. Mm-hmm. And we're going to rebuild the world of organized crime and intelligence operations from the ground up, telling 100 years of history. And season 1 from the framework of the money.
And Greg Oliar's got a podcast at Prevail, Prevail. Also on his Substack, gregoliar.com. Wow, lots of advertising right at the start of the show, but that's not really advertising. It's exciting.
Okay,
and we're here to bury the GOP, not to praise it, because, gosh, what has happened to this party? It's not really a party anymore. Can it be a party if it doesn't have any principles, doesn't have any members that obey the law, doesn't really have any foundation? Is based on a bunch of lies and a leader who looks What?
It does have cocaine and hookers, though. So maybe we can have a party.
It can be that kind of party. It can be that kind of party, but it can't be like a political party. Well done.
No.
Well done.
No. Yeah.
Well, seeing how you're so smart today, Greg. Why don't you? This is what's her name again? Elise Stefanik.
That's her name. Yeah.
What is she? She's a representative for New York, somewhere upstate New York, right?
Upstate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Upstate New York.
She put on a good face today for this announcement or whatever it was. Whenever this picture was taken, it's a lot of makeup and a lot of hair there. So she certainly was preparing for the big day.
Yeah.
So, Greg, what are your thoughts?
Well, like LB said, she looks like a bride. She's like, like she's walking down the aisle, which in a sense is true because she's tied now her political career. And this has happened for a while. One of the first things that I wrote on Substack was a piece about Elise Stefanik and how she basically had willingly sold her soul to all these people and was going to pay the price for it, which I was like completely wrong about everything in that piece, but whatever. A lot of people read it, which was nice. But I want to talk about her a little bit because, we throw up RIP GOP and we think of them as a party, but they obviously are. But everybody that's a member of this party, and we're talking about the politicians who hold office now, not the people at home voting. We're talking about the politicians in office who are members of this party. They are supporting Trump now for different reasons, okay? Everybody that comes to this thing has their own individual motives for doing what they do. Lindsey Graham, it's pretty clear to me, is there because he's being held hostage, and they've got big dirt on that guy. And if you go through and look at all the evidence, it's pretty clear that that's what's happening. Ron Johnson went to Moscow and came back and has been spewing Russian disinformation literally since that day. It's gotten worse and worse to the point where I wrote a piece in December of 2019 saying, oh my God, this is a sleeper cell. This guy is like basically a Russian guy that's going to start getting activated now. And then he activated and he's been worse since I wrote that. So that's obvious. These are obvious things, okay? Elise Stefanik, there's also people who actually believe the bullshit, Marjorie, whatever the fuck.
Taylor Greene.
Is clearly, she believes it. She drank the Kool-Aid or whatever that is. And she's believes the stuff that she's spewing, which that's dangerous because those people can't be reasoned with because they're not sane, frankly. Now, this one, Elise Stefanik, is arguably the most dangerous. Okay. I want to do a little analogy here because it helps explain who she is and why I think she's doing this. When I was a senior in college, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what kind of writer I wanted to be. And I was very into film. And I was like, I kind of want to be a screenwriter. That's what I want to do. And I applied to film school to kind of like it. And I didn't get in because I didn't. And I thought to myself, okay, well, the physical act of writing a screenplay, which is 120 pages long for 2 hours and is mostly dialogue. Oops, I just lost the thing because my son's texting me.
He's not at work. He should be at work at McDonald's.
He is at work.
The physical.
He is. Don't text me. I lose the whole thing.
Okay.
But I lose the. All right, I can't see the comments anymore. Sorry, I'm not going to get distracted by that. Okay, the physical act of writing a screenplay is something that most people can do. Not a good screenplay, just the actual 120 pages.
Writing a good screenplay is very
difficult. Writing just the lines on the paper, you can do that, okay? Yeah. This is me reasoning when I'm 22, 23 years old. Writing a novel is harder just because there's more words, There's just more words. So to have the discipline, look at LB with his face. To have the discipline to sit down and crank out something that's 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 words, I figured there'd be fewer people that can actually accomplish that. Therefore, there'll be fewer novels out there Therefore, my chances of getting published are better than in the screenplay world, where it's really, really, really hard to get noticed. Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, if I write a novel and it does well, I can get like one of the writers that is good enough to make it in the screen world, like LB here, to write the damn thing, and then I don't have to do anything. So I made a very calculated decision at that age in my life that I'm going to write novels and leave the screenplays to the professionals, okay? To people who could do that better, because it's really fucking hard. And that's what I did. It was a cold, calculated decision based on, statistics, basically. And that's what Elise Stefanik is doing. That is what she has done. She is a talentless hack, and she knows, and she thinks, the only way I'm going to get noticed and make a name for myself and be famous and powerful. I think it's more the fame that she craves, the attention. Look at her. She just wants the attention. She wants people to say how nice she looks today and all this kind of stuff. She wants attention and fame. She decided, fuck it, I'm going in with Trump. She's not somebody that was compromised, I don't think. She was somebody who observed all of these people drowning in quicksand and was like, hey, I went in, and dove in.
Now, she actually lost to the guy who's a lot more of a Trump supporter than she is. I mean, she's not exactly policy-wise. She's considered quite liberal in the GOP ranks, and yet she somehow snuck in there.
She got in there. Yeah. It's a cold, calculated decision by her that she made when she started, hanging around with Nunes and Jim Jordan a couple of years ago, around the time of the first impeachment. Okay, and that's her bed now. She's made the bed. She's got to lie in it. She has no choice now but to do this. And this is something that people do. It's not just the politicians. A lot of these people that are on the networks, like Candace, what's her name? Candace Owens or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
She used to write liberal things, and she realized it's too many smart liberal people. But if I go and write bad conservative things, wow, people will put me on TV, and I just want to be on TV. So that's what she does. And Dana, whatever, the NRA lady, same thing. She wanted to be famous, and she tried to have a TV show, and she tried to do this, and she failed at these things, and she thought, oh, I'm kind of pretty. I'll just hold a gun. And now, wow, everyone is watching my videos, That's what they want. That's what she wants, and that's what she is, and that's all she has to offer. There's nothing there. It's all emptiness. It is an empty vessel, and she exists now to do their bidding. And it's dangerous because she made a cold, calculated choice, not to write novels instead of screenplays, but to align herself with the fucking devil. So, that's it. She
has indeed, and that's maybe she's dressed as a bride. She's marrying the devil. But I'll say this, there is actually a party that's developing outside of the GOP that appears to be building some steam. I'm sure you've seen the ads. 150 Republicans have started, I guess it's a campaign or an information gathering exercise to repair what's lost of the Republican Party and basically launch an opposition Republican Party. So she's being cold and calculating, but she's kind of making a stupid move. I don't think by next year the Republican Party is going to be this Republican Party that's going to be contesting the elections. It'll be the new Republican Party that's being built next door.
She'll be answering telephones in Liz Cheney's office, okay?
Exactly. Hopefully.
Oh, I think, she crossed the Cheneys here.
Yeah.
This was, she did. That's it. I think she's always been a calculated individual in terms of, she didn't live in the district that she is a carpetbagger. And I know, I don't know how bad that is to a certain degree, but in that district, which I actually know quite well, it meant something in it. That actually was a ding on her, that her parents had a vacation home. And so she claimed that address, and she didn't grow up there. She's not connected. It's just sort of wealth and privilege on the lakes. And so because they had a camp. And so she could claim that address because it was like a calculated move. Okay, this district I think I can win in on the Republican side. She had, did she work in Paul Ryan's office before she ran?
I think she had some sort of,
something like that. So she had been very much a Tracy Flick. I know everyone wants to think Radio Free Trump, whatever. He came up with that today, but a couple of years ago, I'm like, Tracy Flick, here she comes, because I watched her in the district that is actually very close to my heart, where I have family. We were very concerned about this person. Now, she ran as a centrist at that time. That's why her voting record is so Democratic, because that district in upstate New York these are people who live in the largest national park, many of them in our country. People don't think of the Adirondacks that way, but they are. It's gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful land, beautiful villages, and the people are they're very American. I don't know how else to say it. Like, educated. It's not rural in the rural sense, because it's lakes and reserve and there's hunting, but there's also sort of little villages with people who are very highly educated. It's just a cool place, and they care very much about conservation, very much about that. So she appealed because she was saying, I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican, really. I'll run as Republican, but I'm just a centrist, and I'm just going to represent the people here. And she had a very different look, and she had a very different, really a truly different personality. And she won. And I did not think she was going to win against Tedra Cobb this last election, and she did. And that was right after she went. That's when she started going all in. It was that second impeachment, or that first impeachment. But what she did was she also traveled down to Florida. She started kissing the ring. She started hanging out with Laura Loomer and getting pictures with. She started getting into that alt-right disinformation radicalization machine, and the Breitbart crew and the Jim Jordans, and that were the sort of more established, sort of older politicians, but in with the young ones too. And just, and has literally transformed in front of our eyes to be what she became today. And she's just grabbing power. So I think I don't see a longevity for this individual.
Why? But cold, calculating people who appeal to the center, those do well in politics, in my experience.
But she's not center anymore. She's going to have to go all in on this extremism, because that's what she's done with her brand now. And that I don't know how well that's going to play in her district either. So either they have a lot of information through their data aggregate machine on how people are interacting with the messaging and with the cultism around the former president, who they all call, and she called in her press conference 2 or 3 times today, the president, President Trump, the president. They are holding this line of continuing to call this man the president in the present tense. And so she's all in on that, and I think she believes that she could sort of walk this both sides of the fence the way she did to get into her seat in the first place in that district. I just don't know if that's gonna. I don't know that that's going to continue to work in that district. I think she could be primaried. I think this is one that we should really focus on.
Getting primaried.
I do.
Either that, or we might find her on the presidential ticket in 2024. Can you imagine President Stefanik? I mean, I can't, but
she might run VP like Paul Ryan did. She is
that I can see. That I can see her doing. These are dangerous people, actually. These are the most dangerous people who have no principles and will just find their way anyway into any party. I am really interested in what's going on with this alternative GOP. I think people aren't paying enough attention to this party because it obviously has a huge group of people that are interested in joining a party that is rational and conservative. I mean, it seems to me like a no-brainer that it already must have millions, if not, several million supporters waiting to vote for the Republican Party, because, it can't be that the rest, America's just lost it that much. So we could be seeing a 3-way party fight into 2024. That'll be really interesting. Or we could see the demise of the GOP out of just necessity. Any takers on what might happen in the next couple of years with this third party?
Well, this has happened periodically in the course of American history, where a party basically comes to the end of the line and is not relevant anymore. It happened with the Whig Party. It happened with the parties before the Civil War. And starting a new party
Lincoln was a Whig.
Yeah.
Lincoln was a Whig. People forget about that. Yeah. Yeah.
There were these crazy, like the Know Nothing part. There were other parties in American history. What Liz Cheney is trying to do is kind of bull moose this stuff, where Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, was denied the ability to run again on the Republican ticket and started his third party, the Bull Moose Party, which he called, and split the vote. And that's why I think Wilson won, the Democrat, before the First World War. By the way, just quick aside, Teddy Roosevelt, while giving a speech, got shot. Somebody tried to kill him, and the speech was so thick that the bullet, it broke the bullet a lot. The bullet still hit him. He was bleeding.
Wow.
He finished the speech.
No ways.
I can't even. God, I wish there was YouTube of this.
Oh my God.
I know.
Could you imagine anyone doing that?
That sounds like an incredible story. So he finished the speech and he was still injured.
He just got shot.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, takes more than that to. And he said it takes more than that to kill a bull moose, and that's why his party was called the Bull Moose
Party. That's it's a really thick speech. Note to self if everyone giving an address to somebody. So the GOP is an interesting thing. Do you want to take some takers on? Do you want to take some bets on whether which GOP party is going to be running in 2024, or there'll be three parties running in 2024?
I don't know. Are we playing a game? Okay.
It's not really a game. I'm just asking for opinions.
I think it's always a losing proposition to fracture your party. I don't know how you win an election, but I don't want to be confident because we know what we're up against. I think 2022 and 2024, everyone has to really get out the vote, do everything that we did last time, fight even harder. Everything is still on the line, if not even more so because of the way that the state legislatures have been messing around with voting rights. So we gotta defeat this whatever this thing is. It's a very odd thing now, and I know there's a lot of folks out there that say, "Oh, it's always been this way." The GOP, "Oh, it's always been moving this way." It's really not. This is an anti-democratic small d party now, full on, and they admit it. This is not. I'm not being political in this. They fully admit this is what they're
autocrats.
They are about. Yeah. And so that's very different. Whether that messaging is going to make its way through into the voting base and so they can understand it or not. I think that's a whole other ball of wax because we are so siloed in our information spaces. And that remains more so today than it ever has been. What I think is if we finally get some movement on indictments, we had all this crazy news, right, about that New York is going to demand, Florida's preparing for extradition. It's like, oh my God, maybe they won't extradite the former president. This is the news that's getting reported out that Florida's actually reviewing, do we have to extradite this guy or not? Which of course they do. But I can't believe how we're talking about on a state by state level what to do with the former president when it comes to him possibly and very likely being indicted in New York. Okay,
it does look like it's going to be. Something's going to happen the next few days. It does seem like things are warming up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Weisselberg. I also have an opinion. I hold the same opinion of Weisselberg as I do of Paul Manafort. These old school mafia men, right, who are connected to organized crime their whole lives and working within organized crime their whole lives. I'm sorry, they are. That's what they are. I will demonstrate that in an infallible way. But they are. This is not like Roger Stone is more of a creature that flirts with that and skirts around all these weird edges and does the lobbying and does intelligence weirdness. And political operations. Roger Stone is not going to spend one day in prison if he can help it. He will give up everything he has to give the moment he realizes it's coming for him. Weisselberg will do what Manafort did. I don't see him cutting a deal. I really don't. I see him going away the way that these guys know that eventually they're going to have to go away. All these old Fred Trump guys, they all know, they all get the gig. And he'll come out looking 10 years younger when whoever lets him out.
You think Weisselberg's going to go to jail? I don't know about that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. He's not.
Just to protect his family? What's the...
It's not turning on Trump. It's not going to... This is my bet. I could be completely wrong. I hope I'm wrong about this, by the way. I hope that they have him. And if they have him to such a degree, that means they have him in... Because he was the accountant, that's the wrong word. He really was the CFO. He really was organizing and responsible for all the money. But the co-signer on all of that stuff was Donald Trump himself and Trump Org. So if they have the goods on Weisselberg, whether he cooperates or not, they have the goods on Trump Org and Donald Trump. That's how that works. So let's see.
I'm interested in the kids because Weisselberg's kids were all, the way Trump used to work, it turns out, is, he'd buy your kids a house, or he'd buy your kids an education at a private school, or he'd give you kind of things that you would never be able to get, or huge bonuses every year. And it would immediately compromise the entire family. So it wouldn't just be, it wouldn't just be you. It would be everybody in your family, and they'd lose everything. Yeah. If one of them goes, everything goes. So, these kids are now, I guess the Weisselberg's son is a $200,000 a year job running the ice rink that Trump built. So, that's a good job for $200,000. And they're not going to give any of that up, because he's got private kids, school for his kids. He's got all this other great stuff that he gets from Donald Trump. And that is the way the mafia works, I guess. But it's also the way
that's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
This is a crime family. They use the word family for a reason. And family is used in organized crime. That is it's a device of the institution of organized crime itself. You need that blood relation, and you need that leverage, because people will always put their family first. They will not talk in order to protect their family, and they will not cooperate in order to protect their family. And where we've seen a lot of cooperation and a lot of flipping it's typically outside of the blood relation family. That's why that was so very important. It's real old world stuff. It comes from, Italy. It comes from Russia, from the places where we had our first original gangsters, where they came from. They brought these traditions with them, and they knew what to hang on to, and they knew what to reform and to create anew with, what was really entrepreneurial for those original gangsters. But this idea of family, of bringing your family into the business and keeping them in the business. And if you had someone you were partnered with that was just as important in that business, bring their family in too. So I know people have a thing of you can't accuse the children of the crimes of the father. It's a family organized crime. Okay. The family is the key piece of it. So where family has been used, you absolutely must look at the children, and you must hold the children to account as well, because that's part of the business model and the structure of the organization.
Absolutely.
And you'll always find the money running through.
And you want the kids to flip too. I mean, they're all involved in it. I want to hear what they have to say. Speaking of flipping, let's move along a little bit here. So this dude, everyone's favorite tax collector from Seminole County, Joel Greenberg, it appears has flipped. I guess the latest is that he's going to plead guilty on 6 counts of various things. But this is not a good day if you're Matt Gaetz. Maybe not even a good day if you're Roger Stone. Definitely not a good day if you're Donald Trump. This guy has information up, he's got a lot of information. I love this little lead here from the Orlando Sentinel. Days before he was arrested for stalking a political rival, Joel Greenberg was in the midst of preparing a fraudulent application for a COVID-19 relief loan with the help of a government employee he'd later bribe. If there was any doubt of his outwards intentions for the aid funds, Greenberg erased it with this text message: "How quickly can I blow it all on pussy?" he asked. This is, and it goes on. I mean, the whole indictment is just, it goes on. And so this is a COVID-19 loan. That's what, using a tax employee. I mean, it's just terrible.
That's not very COVID friendly. That's not social distancing with your loan. I don't know about this.
Especially in Florida, where they deny COVID-19 even exists. This is, it is a lot of this. There's another, kind of seedy, not kind of, definitely seedy details of how you'd have sex with one child and then pass it on to several other, abusers.
This today.
Yeah. And there was 7 instances of this. So it seems like the entire GOP sort of, as a brand so far, the GOP's got a foundation of lying and human trafficking as they head into the next elections. And, that's why they're sort of on their way out, in my opinion. But this guy takes it to a whole new level, and it's really bad news for Matt Gaetz, because presumably he was involved in some of this.
But the QAnon people say that the sex trafficking is Democrats, though.
That's because they're so smart the way they do things in reverse, isn't
it? Maybe they're accusing the Democrats of things they themselves are doing. Oh, I get it now.
That's so smart.
Sorry.
You're so smart, Greg. I mean,
we just have to,
you're nailing it today.
I can't believe that he wrote that in a text message. When I worked at AP, we had the corporate attorney that did all our stuff. He used to say just about email. He used to say, never send an email to anyone that you wouldn't be comfortable saying, Your Honor, comma, and then reading in a court of law. So
that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, it is. It's very good advice. But
I mean,
oh my God.
I don't think that applies to these guys at all. It all seems to be on the record here. He had these thousands of tax dollars invested in making Bitcoin in his offices. So he had these Bitcoin mining machines in his offices, which weren't really used for the city. He would just be mining stuff. And then he'd spend those thousands on drugs and sex, various amounts of it.
What I can't
this is the worst. Like, you couldn't put this chimera together if you tried. Of like, let's take the worst stuff going and mush it all together in a lab, and you're getting this individual. Okay.
Yeah, you
what
throw
else
in,
could he be doing? I mean,
throw in identity theft, stalking, wire fraud, conspiracy,
wire fraud,
all of that stuff. Yeah, that's what you got there. 27 counts.
He's probably a guy. Like, if he's on Tinder, he's sending you a dick pic, like, within the first 3 exchanges.
Oh, yeah. That's his hello. That's how he says hi.
That's his hello. Okay, so we're laughing and we're making fun of it. But, Greg, there was some news that dropped right before we came on air about Matt Gaetz. And I think this is just a circle around for my long explanation. The more that the crimes get surfaced and then are charged, we've got indictments, we're going in front of committees and in front of juries and in courtrooms or settling deals, the more that this can happen, it needs to happen as fast as we can make it happen, because we're going to get within a year of an election again. This is what's actually going to impact the end result of whether the GOP is a rest in peace GOP or becomes some new thing altogether. It's going to be these crimes. It's going to be people's awareness of the crimes. All right. So what was this guy doing?
The Daily Beast has him. The Daily Beast has him, according to 2 sources, in a room with hookers and cocaine. And I'm not sure, because I just read the tweet, if it's an actual prostitute or if it's an underage woman he's raping. I don't know. And I'm like, it's like, didn't we know this already? But LB, what you were saying before about like these hardened Manafort types not flipping. My guess is Matt Gaetz is not like that. My guess is this guy will do anything. He's like, he's basically he'll at least Stefanik himself to stay out of prison, right? Can we make her a verb now? Okay.
Yeah. He'll at least.
Should I read you more of the indictment details here on Greenberg? Because I mean, why not?
I don't know.
I'm going to drink.
Greenberg used at least 4 counts to pay for women for sex, including a tax collector's. The actual tax collector's office American Express card to pay for his sex, with the payments typically ranging between $200 and $1,000, and disguised as payments for expenses such as school, food, and ice cream, because I'm sure the tax collector's office often buys school food and ice cream for people. One person Greenberg paid for was a 17-year-old, though Greenberg said that she claimed to be 18 when he first found out her real age through the Sugar Babies website. I don't even know what that is. Greenberg said he initially contacted the minor through a Snapchat account. He paid her $400, and this goes on. I won't bore you with those details.
Okay, don't worry. We did know all of this.
I think so. I think some of this was known, but I'm just reading it in the indictment for the first time.
If you're a grown-ass man, if you're a grown-ass man communicating with a young woman on Snapchat, you have a fucking problem, in my opinion. I'm sorry.
I don't have a Snapchat account. Do you have a Snapchat account? I don't know if you guys have a Snapchat account, but I don't have one.
No.
It's sort of out of my...
kids. That's for the kids.
I don't understand
not for grown people.
There's something very disturbed, though, about... I know we can say that, but to even then be labeling it as ice cream, and there's a...
There's probably some code there. I bet he's making a ha-ha that ice cream is one kind of thing that he does, and school is something else. And I'm not going to get into the graphic terminology.
We're not going to get into it, but
that's where that's going.
All this.
Because that guy has a sense of humor, quote unquote.
Craig, it's not even sense of humor. There's memes around this. There's been memes existing around these things for a while. So the other thing to remember about these guys is that they are sort of culturally deep into what 4chan, was way back when, and then became. That they do have a strange language among one another. And they have these associates that were these operatives out of that world that were connected with Breitbart and all of this stuff, that are this sort of memologists, right? And disinformation terrorists. There's no other word for them. They've just been radicalizing and terrorizing people with disinformation, and they get into all the memetics of all of that. So that's what I'm hearing in that. When I hear ice cream, I'm like, ooh,
it's pretty weird. It's pretty out there. The other thing which I found kind of shocking is the extent of loans that he took out, fraudulent loans on COVID-19 loans, 432,000 COVID-19 in COVID-19 loans.
That enrages me.
You're the tax collector. It's just
they're corrupt. This is corruption, everybody. Yeah. This is it. This is corruption. This is what it looks like when you don't have a functioning democracy. This is what it looks like. This is the stuff that was on Greg's podcast this morning that was so compelling, was listening to the lawyer who in Russia went over there when the government fell apart and a new one had an opportunity to form. He was the first American law firm set up in Russia, being that he was an American. He didn't even know he had passed the bar, Firestone, by the time he was over there and starting to set up a shop. And of course he did. And then he set it up, and he had a very strategic plan, a sort of hole in the market he was going to fill. It was a great business opportunity and business model for himself. And he formed it, right, and became the biggest law firm there. That's why he ended up representing Bill Browder and all these different hedge funds. It was when you hear that story of how somebody came in and just was operating their business in the landscape of what was soon to become an oligarchy, you're going to hear stuff like this. The tax guy in the tax office was running the Bitcoin machines and was running this is what it looks like. This is what a kleptocracy looks like. We're witnessing it here in America with elected officials. The tax collector in Florida is an elected official. Matt Gaetz, an elected official. They're supposed to be representing us. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene, that video.
I'm glad you mentioned her.
Of her.
Look at that.
Screaming. Look at that. Going on, doing this trip with him. But
I don't like to
now
look
we
at
have
her.
the video.
I don't like to look. Make it stop.
Now we have, it's difficult.
Wait a second. I got to figure out how to get
my
it
dinner.
Because we're not taking hits at people's looks, but it's difficult because she's so corrupt, right? You can see it screaming into a mail slot in AOC's door before she even ran for office, right? In there with a guy who ended up being caught as one of the insurrectionists. Why? Because they're in bed with all these operatives, the same people that are the meme lords. That's all coming out of, Alex Jones' world and Steve Bannon's world. It's this. There's this claque of people, I'm telling you. And
the behavior
Elise Stefanik.
Yeah.
Elise Stefanik down there visiting and staying with them. Matt Gaetz partying with them. This Jeff Greenberg partying with them, using their memology to fill out loans because, everything's a troll and everything's funny because there's no consequences for us. They really, truly believe that they live in the system that they're trying to manifest. It's not there yet. We still have a democracy. We now have a Justice Department that is not corrupt at the head of it. And these people are going to pay for their crimes. They are. But we got to keep that ball rolling, because if we lose these elections, this is what they want. They want to be able to have their buddy in the tax collector office going ahead and printing up fake IDs for the girls that they met at the high school that they're going to traffic on the private planes, paying in Venmo and not get caught.
And what you're seeing in the House of Representatives is, this kind of childish bullying going around. Not only did Marjorie Taylor Greene try to pick a fight with OAC, you had Representative Swalwell today being told by an aide to Marjorie Taylor Greene to take off his mask. I mean, normally in Congress, aides don't really need to talk to representatives or senators unless there's like something important to tell them. You certainly don't go around saying, take off your mask. I mean, I don't want to get like sound like I'm like old school about this, but they have no respect for anything that exists in there. It's just like a wall-to-wall bullying, ignore the rules, do whatever we want, break everything we can scenario. I mean, it's not, they're not even interested in playing the game. They don't even accept that there is a game or the rules are there at all. They're just interested in doing whatever they like. I do like this.
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
you're talking about this billboard.
To your point,
brilliant.
just before we move on, in case anyone watching has missed this, because they were busy today. Okay, this little twerp, his name is Nick Dyer, and I think we should call him Dick Nyer from now on.
Okay.
Just inflate the anonymity. Dick Nyer, who's probably, he looks like he's 15 and should be like in whatever. He's the one who went up to Swalwell and was trying. He's Marjorie Taylor Greene's comms guy, which is also just inherently funny.
God.
All right, so he's a fucking twerp. He comes up, take your mask off, and Swalwell, who's not, Swalwell's beefy dude. He just went right up in his face and he's like, "You don't fucking tell me what to do." And the guy was like, "Ooh," and ran away. And then he tried to tattle on him on Twitter, and then Swalwell was like, "Yeah, that's what happened. I wish I was more explicit."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
so that's like
Swalwell responded in the way he did.
That's cover. Hang on, that's cover. This kid went in there to provoke a representative to yell at him, and then they get to say, "Well, you can't point your finger at Marjorie Taylor Greene for yelling at AOC," because this is provocation is also what they do. They live for it. That's a troll. This is a troll. It's the comms guy, which means it probably worked for Roger Stone and like. I don't know. It brought him his Starbucks, right?
Yeah. Didn't work today.
No,
but it does for them. It does, Greg. It does. It gives a both sides, and then they get to scream hypocrisy.
You're right. It does work for them.
You got to do. It works for them in their lane, and everyone needs to get.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I know what you're saying, but. These are people that grew up watching Clint Eastwood movies and Rambo. And when they see somebody being like attacked and then Swalwell saying this cool ass line, they know that looks cool. They do. They're trained from goddamn birth to respond positively to that. Look on Twitter. Nobody's.
Okay.
Swalwell's been trolling all afternoon.
He Schwarzeneggered it up.
Yeah,
right.
he did.
I think he actually won this round. Right. Not that I hate to think about it.
Look on Twitter. Look at the replies. They're all.
Although the GOP is no longer on Twitter. I had previously this really handy chart of Matt Gates's, who might trip up in relation to Matt Gates, and I was rearranging it because I forgot one big person that we should have had in this chart. And please, if there's any God in the universe, may they include bringing this man down. So Ron DeSantis, who must be the most vile person as has ever run for office in the world, is actually connected to all of this. He and Mr. Greenberg have partied together. Him and Mr. Gates have partied together. It seems like we're not far off from seeing the governor of Florida having his own issues, and maybe that changing the ticket into 2024, which wouldn't that be a nice thing? I try not to be pick sides in politics, but this guy, no matter which side you're in, he's pretty awful.
I guess no matter what happened, we were going to get a governor of Florida and doing coke in a in a hotel room. I don't know.
I think possibly somewhere along the way, you might see that.
Look, this guy DeSantis is really, really popular. With the Republican base. He is. Now, so I think this is the person to watch. I think a DeSantis Stefanik ticket is what we're looking at here.
Yeah, DeSantis is definitely running if he's not in prison. So we have to try to get him arrested. Would be good.
You had that thing that you did, Zev, and I know we talked about. I don't mean to surprise you, but we talked about when there was more to sort of fill in what come in, where you were looking at DeSantis and some of the other corruption in Florida state politics that he.
It really is.
To. So. Yeah, so I look forward to learning more about all of that. I think
the real story is how much corruption there is around voting in Florida. Not that they're not necessarily on a federal level, but possibly on a federal level. But we've seen some of it on a state level that is going to blow people away. And DeSantis and Greenberg and Gates have been involved in a lot of that together. So it may not get exposed, but it'll be interesting. One final thing on Gates here, of course, Roger Stone. Can't be happy today. There is a really serious story going on in Mississippi. I don't know if you guys have been following the ban on medical marijuana there, which was supposed to be lifted because the people had voted an initiative and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has found a technicality there to basically say no to allowing medical marijuana in Mississippi. And the way they've done it is they said there's five. There used to be five counties, or I think it's counties, I'm not sure what the term is, which represented all of Mississippi. But for the last 20 years, there's been four because of the way the demographics work. So the Supreme Court there is saying, well, all voting initiatives have a majority of votes from five counties which don't exist. So basically, the Supreme Court of Mississippi has decided to declare itself the total ruler of the state. And I know people are going to think, well, it's about medical marijuana and what have you. Yes, it's about medical marijuana, but it's also about a Supreme Court in a state taking over the will of the people and controlling everything in that state. And, I'm as concerned as you guys are about the endless erosion of democracy in the states and the voter rights suppression in the states. But this is beginning to look a little bit concerning when you've got Supreme Courts acting like this on a state level. It's autocracy. There's no other way to describe it.
Mississippi is a fucking mess. And the governor there is a guy named Tate Reeves, who's less known than DeSantis and Abbott in Texas, but just as bad. Just as, no mask, no this, just as willing to kill people to, get his point across about the virus, and is allegedly pro-life. And he's young, too. He's not an old guy. He looks like, I know we've said that Josh Hawley is a dildo, but this guy really looks like that with a wig on, with a toupee and bad glasses.
Oh, no.
And Google it. Google him after thinking that. Just Google Tate Reeves and you'll laugh. Mississippi is a fucking mess. It's always been a mess, frankly. But in this day and age, it's really awful. I feel very bad for people that live there. You said Mississippi. I thought you were going to bring up the Brett Favre story, because that motherfucker took $600,000 of money that was supposed to go to this charity and has not paid it back.
Oh, I didn't know anything about that. And I assume
is he in Mississippi? I didn't even know he was Mississippi.
He's from Kill, Mississippi. Yeah. And he thought he was doing this thing, and they paid him $1.1 million, and he was like, I'm going to give it back. And he paid back $500,000. And now a lot of time has gone by, and the reporter there has said, no, pay it back.
He might not have it.
Just imagine the world where the rich people actually donated some of their money. He got to
pay it back, though. He said he was going to pay it back. He made lots and lots of money in his career. He should have that later on.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
surprising how people lose money with it is, in the ways that they can lose it. I'm not making an excuse for him. I'm just saying.
Cut to Greenberg.
It might not be getting paid back because it might not exist. It might have been spent.
I'm sure. I don't doubt that that's true, but
Yeah.
I just want to say fuck Brett Favre. That's all. That's all.
All right, you got that. I'm very concerned. There was some reporting that came out by our friend Luke O'Brien around Ali Alexander. That came out. I know Luke had that ready to go with the insurrection within that, and it just took forever for the article for the corporate attorneys to clear it. But it is out. Everyone should read that. It's a big, extensive, long piece from Luke. And in it, he starts to identify what's called RAGA. I know we have MAGA, but there's RAGA. And it's the Republican Attorney Generals Association. And it's all the Republican Attorney Generals across the United States, state by state. And they're in this association together. And it looks like they've actually been quite active at crafting these legal arguments and laws that end up going into the Supreme Court, like what we saw or at least advising on them, like what we saw, what Sheldon Whitehouse was showing us with the
I am so glad you just raised Sheldon Whitehouse's name. With
amicus brief,
amicus briefs.
right, where it's like friends of the court writing the briefs to send up in there to start to chip away at precedent and to give Supreme Court justices that are conservative things about things like right to work, which is really just a union busting stuff, to work these cases, and even finding people to file the cases, finding the right,
basically
funding
making up
them
a
with
whole
dark
case.
money,
Yeah.
making up a whole thing to try to get certain rulings happening so they can chip away at precedent around some big cases we have. Roe versus Wade, the Brown case, all these things are sort of in the docket, especially the right to work. Okay, or the unions, right?
But it's the voting things are even more critical.
And the voting.
Yeah.
So on the state level, that's where I'm going. On the state level, state by state, are all the voting laws on the states that are ruled on by the Supreme Courts. And this Republican Attorney General's Association, they were kind of really in there with the Stop the Steal organizers. And they've been this kind of unseen dark force behind a lot of the legal machinations to try to make it so that states can actually overturn elections. If they don't like the result, then the electors can overturn it. All this stuff that we have, this big Voting Rights Act that's trying to get passed to, and Joe Manchin, to everybody's surprise, Jennifer Garner shows up, an actress shows up, popular with everybody in West Virginia, West Virginia's girl. She shows up at Joe Manchin's little town hall, and next thing we know, he's all in with the Voting Rights Act. This is what it takes. These people are sycophants. They do love their celebrities. They do want they do want to have famous people around them, loving them up.
Sure.
I don't know who we can find for Kristen Cinema. We need to find someone with her, love her up with some celebrity from Arizona. Maybe we'll make believe that The Star is Born was a real thing and give her Bradley Cooper. And then maybe she'll go ahead and he could talk her into voting, and she can feel like she knows a famous person, and she'll start voting in line with the other Democrats instead of being this, bulwark against.
I want to just, before I think you're totally right there, by the way, on cinema, but I want to just show you what Sheldon Whitehouse put out today, which ties in exactly to what you're talking about. Now, he has described the whole, the process you were describing as the dark money court capture operation. But the scary part of what he's writing about today is, this is Leonard Leo, your friend, Greg, I know how much you love the guy. So he describes the whole process here. I won't take you through the details, but you have to check out the tweet. But then he says the dark money court capture operation has swiveled to become the dark money voter suppression operation, as forces behind it will try to reshape the electorate to one that will elect Republicans who they can control with dark money. He basically says, everyone's been outed around the court capture stuff. The money that's funding this voter suppression is the same money that funded the court capture, which is all dark, evil money. It's a very powerful thread that Sheldon Whitehouse put out today, and it needs to be sent around. If this is what's going on, if these are the forces, we really have a battle up against to fight in the next year. Yeah.
The way to defeat all of this is to vote in astronomical numbers. Sorry for my speech impediment. We have to show up and vote in even bigger numbers, with more solidarity than we did in the last presidential election. We've got to do that for the midterms. Everything is on the line. We cannot lose the Senate. We cannot lose the House. And we have to make it so that all of this, excuse my French here, this rat fuckery, right, can get
that's not French. That's actually accurate.
Is it accurate? At the ballot, at the ballot box. We've got to stop it at the ballot box.
We really do.
And then we can start enacting some laws, and hopefully that voting rights law, that the John Lewis law, gets passed before the election. I don't know. I hope so.
I think on a state level, people really need to start focusing on who their candidates are on a state level, really looking at who they're representing on that state level, who they're electing as governors. There is so much fighting to be done on that level. And, the federal level may be, the die might be cast already in terms of some of the way the gerrymandering is going. But on the state level, I think that's the most dangerous level. We need to capture these state houses back, or at least the Democrats need to capture the state houses back. I say we because, of course, the Republicans are not part of the democratic process anymore. Can we spend a little time just talking about the weird revisionism going on in the GOP around January the 6th? Because firstly, that Chris Miller guy, is that his name? Chris Miller, the acting defense secretary, who showed up, said something completely different from his prepared address the night before. The night before he says, Trump's the reason that all this happened, Trump's speeches. And then he shows up in front of the Congress and says something completely different. Completely different.
He got a phone call.
Sure, but
that prepared statement went out to the members of the committee.
Yeah.
I think the press might have even gotten a hold of it. Clearly, somebody gave it to Donald Trump, and Mr. Trump picked up the phone call. Old Donnie Two Scoops, in the middle of his ice cream, picked up the phone and called Chris Miller. And God only knows what he said to him. And that man showed up agitated. He was just like Sean Spicer. Remember when Sean Spicer comes out? Everybody remembers this, when he was like, that was the biggest crowd of any crowd at the first press conference. And he was all up in that and defensive and defiant. And he was coming with this thing. That's what exact same brain chemistry on this Chris Miller when he showed up to read his statement. And it was different. He had changed stuff. And the members were just like, well, that was a quick turnaround. What happened
and
with
then
you?
They made the most ridiculous excuses. I mean, it's not even excuses. They're rewriting something we all saw live. We have the video.
Yeah.
We've seen it. There are so many indictments. People going to jail for 7 years. The guy with his feet up in Pelosi's office. I mean, this is criminal records now. This is not like it's made up. And one of the representatives is saying, oh, it looks like a typical scene of when tourists are visiting the Capitol. It does not look like a typical scene of when the tourists are visiting the Capitol. It looks like a coup attempt. And everybody along the way knew this was a coup attempt. I played that video on Twitter a lot. There's audio of Roger Stone, of Flynn, of everybody else saying, we are thinking about martial law. We are looking to impose martial law. Martial law involves the military. That's by definition is what it is. So if a Chris Miller to walk in there and say, oh, well, it was, nothing was planned. We were just optically worried about it seeming like the military was out there crushing reporters and crushing protesters. No, they did not go there because they were planning martial law. They wanted to take over the Congress. They may have wanted to kill some senators, and they probably wanted to end the day with some sort of martial law being declared. That is what they were trying to do. They've said it a million times. And this sort of whitewashing of the whole thing is insane. I don't get it.
That was Sidney Powell and Mike Flynn's plan that they went in and spelled out to the president. Mike Flynn was, as you said, announcing that this was the plan. We're not making this up here on Narrative, you guys. We're telling you what these people were on InfoWars, on Alex Jones, on YouTube with Steve Bannon was saying the same thing, reporting out of, I think it was Politico at the time. It could have been The Atlantic about all those meetings. They were very clear ahead of time. They had T-shirts made for Stop the Steal. This whole thing was a very calculated and clear plan. And for people like Chris Miller to go, well, I don't know anything about, that's not what it was. We weren't doing that. I don't know. At this late stage, it defies belief, especially when he was saying something opposite just hours before. So he did get called out on that. We saw that. I don't know who watched that hearing, but he did get called out on it. There are a lot more questions that need to be asked of this man.
Like what was that memo on the 4th of September where he tells the National Guard to stand down? You can't use intelligence. You can't do this. You can't basically walk. He said that there was no way the National Guard could basically operate that day. Now, why can't they do intelligence? Why is that a bad optics thing? Intelligence happens in secret. They can do that. They can do reconnaissance. Why did he stop them from doing that? Okay. That's something the public couldn't see. We don't worry about optics there.
Public needs to know. We need to start getting informed from the FBI about the people who have been indicted, the people who are showing up in court. I would like to start getting daily or weekly, just talk to us about what's happening with these court cases, because unless people like us come onto this platform and start talking about the details, or Zev, you're reading indictments or what we're doing, nobody's hearing about any of this stuff. This isn't, no harm to ongoing matter. There's no harm to ongoing matter to talk about somebody who you've indicted and the indictment's public. Come and talk to us about what's going on. Into the discourse, these facts need to start arriving. They are not coming out of the mouths of Justice Department officials. into the public discourse, into the media discourse. We
You're right.
must keep insisting that they have to talk to us, not to disclose something that they can't. Nobody's asking for that. We're just asking, talk to us about the stuff that you're doing in broad daylight, because it's not enough to just have it be filings. Our fourth estate has failed us before here. They're not capable of covering this. They want to talk about other stuff. And these are the kinds of facts and information around the actual cases and the actual indictments that need to start reaching in. On top of all of that, I want to say this about Chris Miller. There is something, I've tweeted about this before, and those people who know about it really look into something called mimetic contagion, okay? And Donald is a purveyor of that. He gets around people, and you see a change in those people, and it's not just explained away for mob tactics. So he's got blackmail on them. He has like all these theories that come up. He's a corrupting force. There are some individuals that are just corrupting forces. And so when he surrounded himself, but nothing but sycophants, which is what he went for, eventually all you have around you are sycophants, which is the autocratic playbook. Sometimes those sycophants aren't really thinking about what you're asking them to do, or they're siloed in that information without understanding. So Chris Miller's writing this memo. It came from his boss, who got it from Mike Flynn, who drafted it with Sidney Powell. Here, send this to Chris Miller. This is what we want him to do. And the sycophant gets it, and he goes, okay, and he does it. He has no idea. He's not thinking, right? Because his brain has been hijacked. Yeah. He's not thinking. And now all of this entire shit show has come out of this guy. His failure to do his job, the insanity of what he was doing when he thought he was doing his job, that set this whole thing up to where also he's kind of the fall guy in this. And I think that's what's behind a lot of the defiance that we saw in his testimony, is he's cognitively pushing back about this, that this guy is just dawning on him probably how unbelievably manipulated he was, how drastically he was used, how he is going to be the one, I believe, that's going to end up paying the price in terms of officials for January 6th if they start charging people for insurrection. I don't know that it will make its way to Donald or Mike Flynn even, or Rudy Giuliani even, but it will land squarely on Chris Miller's head.
I don't even know if it'll get to Chris Miller, but I do think it's going to get to some others. Look, there 440 people have been arrested and indicted for this thing. 440 people. It's the largest crime I can think of in a very long time. One of these guys, like the guy who showed up in Pelosi's office for having his feet up in the air, 7 years, no parole. I mean, these guys are getting serious sentences. It's not like there is not justice being happening. Justice is happening. We just need to see it more, talk about it more, and we need to get into this question of whether the military was involved and to what extent. I mean, Donald Trump installed 5 operatives in there that, I don't know what happened to Cash and all of those other people, but what were they doing there in the last few months of his administration?
Owen Watnick.
He installed them there to do something. They just weren't sitting around. And then now we know that there was an attempted coup, a military coup being discussed. A martial law was going to be imposed. Well, it's useful to have 5 operatives in the Pentagon when you're trying to impose martial law and you need the military to do that for you. So this is not just coincidence. This is not just, those things happened by this crazy former president. No, this was a plan to take over the American democracy and install an autocracy under martial law. And we can't ignore that because we were, hours, maybe minutes away from that on January the 6th. And we need to be looking into it very carefully because that military has not changed its composition. The same people are still there.
To bring it back around to the title of this show, that is exactly what Liz Cheney, as many issues as people want to have with her, because she's a very conservative and she comes from she's a Cheney. That's what she's been calling for with the 1-6 commission, right? That is exactly
which is happening.
It is happening. That's a good point. Yeah. It is finally happening.
I have that on my list. They've now moved forward with that. We have been calling for that since it happened here in this space. And it looks like it is going to happen. How effective it will be, I don't know. But every light that can be shown on this is good. Because you don't know where something might come out that will wind up being big. That one stupid memo that Miller wrote is a big deal. And maybe in the moment it didn't feel like it, but it's a big fucking deal, right? So things are going to happen. And I don't know about
to keep pressure on calling your local representatives and demanding answers, because It's the kind of thing that they will try sweep away. Maybe not the Democrats, but certainly the Republicans are going to try sweep away. But we need to keep this, in the front and center of everyone's attention because we're not far from another election.
And that's what they do. This is what they do. The first thing that Trump had Sean Spicer do was that thing about the crowd size when he knowingly went out there to lie about something that we all saw wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. This is the same thing. That was a dress rehearsal for where we are now, where they want us to believe something that we all saw with our own eyes, okay? Yeah, and they're gaslighting the fuck out of this. And I believe that any congressperson, whether in the Senate or the House of Representatives, who is backing this thing should be removed by that amendment that says you're not allowed to be, a seditious force. So they should all leave. There was some fuckhead.
Maybe that's what we get to
today.
Yeah.
The guy, I can't remember his name. That they was talking.
I don't remember his name either.
Lying about, and you look at the guy and you're like, I don't know who you are, and I've never seen you before. But the chances that somebody busts you for child porn in the next 5 years are in the 90s. This is the creepiest looking guy I've ever seen. He's a scumbag, and he's fucking lying. He's a gaslighter, but he's not very effective because he looks like a scumbag. That's why Elise Stefanik is dangerous.
But look,
that's why she's dangerous.
Look, you say that, Greg, but. This party is so strange right now. These characters are so strange. It is working with the base, but we'll see whether it's going to work in the election. And that guy also, when he was called out later by a reporter, do you really believe all the stuff you say? He's like, how you're just taking me out of context. Like, so then he was gaslighting about his gaslighting. I'm like, it's just never going to end.
It's never going to end.
Where do they learn this? Where do they learn how to do this?
It's a corruption.
I know where they get the gas now from the gaslighting. They put it in plastic bags and they put it in the trunk. That's what happens. That's why there's a gas shortage. Too much gaslighting.
That's a good whatever meme or something to put out there. I just want to I know we're out of time. A moment here for Eric Prince's spies. So Eric Prince hires a bunch of women to basically honey trap H.R. McMaster, the former national security advisor, and other Trump enemies. Working with Project Veritas from the Koch brothers funds. They basically fund Project Veritas. So these are some of them. This is the British spy recruited by Eric Prince. There's a whole operation, actually. There's a British spy who then recruited other British women to then do some of this stuff. But there's also a lovely spy from St. Petersburg. Let me do the full. Sorry, she's a reporter. She claims to be a reporter for Project Veritas.
She's a poker player. That's the poker player, right?
Oh, is she? This is Anna Kait. Apparently she was on Survivor or something like that. Hello, Mark Burnett. But from St. Petersburg, Russia. And investigating and keeping our government in check is what journalists are supposed to do. Instead, the New York Times attacks those who are doing their job. Unbelievable. Apparently she thinks journalists try to honey trap politicians as a way of finding things out. That's not quite how things work, Anna. Why is Eric Prince in the middle of this? Haven't we learned anything from the last time there was a honey trap operation with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein? This sounds a lot like that. And what a mess. What a total mess. That this is how they do their... Sorry, did I miss that?
Yeah, this is very mobby, by the way.
Charles Kushner... Jared, people probably know this already. Jared Kushner's dad hired a prostitute to get with his brother-in-law, secretly videotaped it, and gave the video to his sister, I guess on Thanksgiving. I don't know, because they were mad about something. So that's, again, scummy. These are all scummy people. By the way, Annika, this is a sponsored poker player. Sponsored.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
We don't know who sponsored her.
When I say I had put a tweet out like, okay, so when I talk about the intersection of organized crime and intelligence operations, but don't think I'm always talking about U.S. spies, right? Or even spies that work for, there are private intel ops going on, and mobsters are dumb, right? So this is dumb. This was a dumb move. that Donald did, right, to try to compromise the FBI, because the FBI doesn't know that this kind of thing happens, and you can compromise a bunch of FBI agents this way. It's really bad. It's really dumb.
Do you want some good detail, though? Really it's kind of just fun detail.
I don't know.
So the ladies, I don't know why they call them ladies, got code names like Brazil and Tiger. And they were housed in a $10,000 a month, 6-bed Georgetown mansion in Washington, D.C., a spot so secretive they had been advised to have Ubers drop them off a distance from the residence. But before being chosen, they were flown to Wyoming to an unlimited ranch owned by the household of Eric Prince, meaning the DeVos family, I guess, the founder of Blackwater, as we know, and they talk about Betsy DeVos there. So they gave them training there. They were told to burn what notebooks they had at the end, and then assume characters once they'd left. But this is a real operation. This is an absolute operation. Yeah. Brazil and Tiger. There you go.
There we go. There's
the code names.
How often the code names, like the weird, information operatives out of Anonymous. They all have those weird names. So this is it, guys. You. People don't just naturally know how to do things. They don't naturally know how to gaslight and lie. They don't naturally know how to go and record their brother-in-law. Like, you're in with some group that has training in this, and then for you to execute on their behalf, whatever the mission is, they train you. That's how it works.
Seems the only way you can get laid in Washington, D.C. is to get nabbed by one of these operations. Just saying. I think we're out of time.
You said it.
I said it out loud. Sorry.
You said that out loud.
Oh, yes. It's the big secret. Hey, you guys, that was a fun show. I think we're out of time. Do you guys want to say anything before we leave?
I have one thing that occurred to me today while I was in the bath, which is I was thinking about the Bill Gates stuff, which we don't have time to get into, and we don't really even know about. And it struck me that Microsoft is such a word that is the business that it is, that's been in my brain for such a long time. And I understand it's like microchip and software, but like if you just break it down, micro and soft is really just means tiny and flaccid. It is a really weird name for a company. So I gotta say.
I don't want to hear this. Okay.
Very strange. Who picked these names?
It's a weird name.
I would have to advise, don't pick the name. It's not going to work. I don't think
maybe it was a factor in the divorce, but who knows? And on that note, good night, everybody. We'll see you again on Tuesday.
Wipe.
Narrative is funded by viewers like you. Support our independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative.